The docking clamps seized the hull with a metallic groan that echoed through Kepler-7 station. Captain Dayan Park watched through his viewport as dock workers scattered, their multi-species faces twisted in what could only be disgust. He couldn't blame them. The Muggenwell looked like something that had crawled out of a scrapyard and decided to fly. The ship was a mess of mismatched hull plates. Some were gray, others brown, a few painted in faded blue that had probably been white a decade ago. Exposed wiring ran along the outer hull like veins, wrapped in protective coating that had cracked in places. The main thruster assembly was held together by reinforced brackets that anyone with eyes could see had come from at least 3 different ship classes. And yes, there was duct tape. Special space-grade duct tape, but still tape. Dayan stood from his captain's chair and stretched. His joints popped. He was 47 years old and felt every year of it after that last jump. Behind him, his crew began shutdown procedures. Ji-Won Kim, his chief engineer, was already muttering about the starboard coolant line. She was 32, thin as a rail, with oil permanently stained under her fingernails. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she wore coveralls that had been patched so many times they were more patched than original fabric. "We're losing pressure again in Section 4, she said, without looking up from her tablet. "I'll need to swap out the coupling. Again." "Can't wait until after we resupply?" Daehyun asked. "It'll have to. We don't have a spare." Minho Choi, their navigator, spun in his chair with the enthusiasm of someone who still found space travel exciting. At 25, he was the youngest crew member by far. "Captain, the station is requesting our cargo manifest and purpose of visit. Tell them we're here for standard resupply and to review the job boards." "Already done. They've assigned us Bay 47. Hai-Jin Lee snorted from the weapons station. "Bay 47. That's where they put the garbage haulers." She was 28, former Earth Defense Force, and had the kind of edge that came from seeing combat. Her dark eyes missed nothing. "Then we'll fit right in," Dayan said with a slight smile. The airlock cycled open an hour later. Dayan led his crew into Kepler-7, one of the largest trade stations in this sector. The main concourse was massive, with ceilings that stretched up 5 stories. Hundreds of species moved through the space. Valkyrie floated past, their energy-based bodies shimmering in elegant formations. Thungol warriors clanked along on multiple legs, their chitinous armor gleaming. There were Pelthans, Korvax, Sendri, and dozens of others and then there were humans. 4 of them, looking shabby and out of place. They hadn't made it 50 meters before the comments started. "Is that a human ship?" A Valkyrie merchant's translated voice carried across the concourse. "It looks like it's held together with hope and refuse." Dayan kept walking. He'd heard worse. A Thungol warrior actually stopped to stare as they passed. Its mandibles clicked in what the translator interpreted as laughter. "The humans bring their scrap to our station? Is this some kind of joke?" Ji-Won's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Minho looked at the deck. Hai-Jin's hand drifted toward her hip, where she used to carry a sidearm to force station regulations. The real humiliation came at the station, Council's public forum that evening. Dayan had only gone to review available jobs, but the forum was discussing a rescue mission. Ships had been disappearing in the Ashara system. 3 in the past month alone. Ambassador Kilther, a being that resembled a 2-meter-tall salamander in expensive robes, was speaking. His skin was a deep purple, and he gestured with webbed hands as he addressed the council. "The Radiant Virtue will investigate," he announced. "Our Valkyrie flagship has the most advanced scanning technology in this sector. We will solve this mystery and rescue any survivors." Dayan raised his hand. The room fell silent. Then several species began making sounds that the translator struggled to interpret, but were clearly mocking. "The human wishes to speak," the council chairperson said. her tone neutral, but her triple eyes clearly amused. "Captain Daehan Park of the Magangwa. We'd like to volunteer to assist in the rescue mission." The silence lasted 3 seconds before the chamber erupted in laughter. Not polite chuckles. Full, belly-deep laughter from dozens of species. Ambassador Kilther's mouth opened in his species version of a smile. "You? In that vessel?" He paused as if searching for a word. "Captain Park, I have seen the ambulatory garbage you arrived in. I would not trust it to survive a journey to the next station, let alone into a dangerous anomaly zone." More laughter. "With respect, Ambassador, the Magangwa has been flying for 20 years, and it shows," Kilther interrupted. "Captain, this is a mission that requires the best technology, the finest vessels, not junkyard trash held together by human stubbornness." He turned to the council. "The Radiant Virtue departs in 30 hours. We need no assistance, certainly not from that." The council moved on. Daehan and his crew were dismissed with barely a glance. Back on the Magangwa, Daehan sat in his quarters staring at the star charts. The Ashara system. 3 ships lost. He pulled up the data. High gravitational readings. Unusual energy signatures. Something was very wrong there. G1 appeared in his doorway. "You're thinking about going anyway." "We have the fuel," Daehan said. "Barely. We have it." She leaned against the frame. "They'll say we're glory hunting, trying to prove something. Maybe we are. What if they're right? What if the ship can't handle it?" Daehan looked at her. "G1, you've kept this ship flying through asteroid fields, solar flares, and 3 separate engine failures. If anyone can get us through, it's you." She was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "I'll need to reinforce the port shields. And pray, you do that. I'll plot a course." 36 hours later, the Radiant Virtue departed Kepler 7 station with great ceremony. The Valkyrie flagship was beautiful, all smooth curves and crystalline surfaces that caught the light. It jumped to hyperspace in a flash of brilliant energy. 12 hours after that, the Magangwan limped out of dock with zero fanfare. One dock worker actually laughed and made a comment about not expecting to see it again. Daehan sat in his captain's chair. His crew at their stations. "Course laid in," Minho said. "Engines ready," G1 reported. "Shield. Weapons online," Hyjin added. "Not that they'll matter." Daehan smiled. "Let's show them what junkyard trash can do. Jump." The Magangwa jumped to hyperspace. The engines rattled. The hull groaned. The lights flickered twice, but it flew. The hyperspace corridor was rough. The Magangwa shook like a ground transport on a bad road. Daehan gripped his armrests and waited for the rattling to subside. It didn't. This was normal. Beside him, Minho had already turned green. The kid still hadn't gotten his space legs for rough jumps. Hyjin looked bored, cleaning her fingernails with a small knife. Jiwan's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, the starboard stabilizer is acting up again. Nothing critical, but we're gonna feel every bump." "Understood," Daehan replied. "How long until we can drop out?" 6 hours at current speed. I could push it to 5, but I wouldn't recommend it. 6 is fine. We're not in a race. Except they were, in a way. The Radiant Virtue had a 12-hour head start and was faster. By the time the Magangwa reached Ashara, the Valkyrie would already be investigating. Daehan didn't care about pride or proving anyone wrong. Not really. But those missing ships had crews, families. If there was any chance of helping, he had to try. Hyjin stood and stretched. "I'm going to check the weapons locker. Make sure everything's secured for whatever we're flying into." "Good idea," Daehan said. When she left, Minho finally spoke. "Captain, can I ask something?" "Go ahead. Why do they hate us so much?" The other species, I mean. We've been part of the galactic community for 30 years now. We trade, we follow the rules, we help when we can. But they still treat us like we're primitives. Daeon was quiet for a moment. It's not hate, Minho. It's assumption. They look at our ships and see failure. They don't understand that we build differently because we have to. What do you mean? Most species out here, they reached space when they were already rich. Unified planets with resources to spare. They built their first ships as art projects, almost. Beautiful things that worked because they could afford to make them perfect. He gestured at the worn controls around them. Humans? We reached space while we were still fighting each other. We built ships from whatever we could find because we had to. And then we had the crisis. Minho nodded. Everyone knew about the crisis. 50 years ago, Earth had nearly destroyed itself. Environmental collapse, resource wars, billions dead. Humanity had clawed its way back, but they'd done it with scraps. When they finally made it to the stars, they brought that scrap and survive mentality with them. So they think we're poor. They think we're desperate. And desperate makes them uncomfortable. Daeon smiled without humor. They'll learn, eventually. The ship lurched. Red lights flashed across the console. What was that? Minho's hands flew over his controls. Jiwon's voice crackled with static. We just passed through some kind of interference field. I'm reading massive energy fluctuations ahead. Captain, I think we're getting close. Drop us out of hyperspace. Normal space, cautious approach. The Mugunwish shuddered as it transitioned. The viewport cleared, and Daeon's breath caught. The Asha system was dying. 3 planets orbited a fading red star, but that wasn't what drew the eye. At the edge of the system, space itself was torn. A massive vortex of dark matter and gravitational chaos churned like a storm in an ocean. It was beautiful and terrifying. Debris floated around it, metal and ice tumbling in complex patterns. And in the middle of it all, ships. Dead ships spinning slowly in the grip of something invisible. Mother of God, Minho whispered. I'm reading the Radiant Virtue's signature. Haijin called out, returning to her station. They're inside the anomaly. And they're in trouble. Daeon pulled up the tactical display. The Valkyrie flagship was deep in the vortex, shields flickering. As he watched, a Thungor war vessel tumbled past. Its biomechanical hull cracked like an egg. No life signs. Scanning, Minho said, his voice shaking. I'm counting 5 vessels in immediate danger. 7 more look dead already. Captain, that thing is pulling everything in. Then we don't get close. Minho, can you plot a stable observation position? I can try, but the gravitational readings are insane. They're fluctuating every few seconds. Nothing should be stable out there. The communications array squealed with static. Then a desperate voice broke through. It was Valkyrie, speaking in their harmonic language, but the translator caught it. Anyone receiving this is the Radiant Virtue. Our systems are failing. The anomaly's gravitational shear is beyond our shield parameters. We are being pulled toward the center. Request immediate assistance. Repeat, immediate. The signal cut to static. Haijin looked at Daehan. Captain? He stared at the churning chaos on the screen. Every instinct said to run. The Mugen wasn't built for this. But neither were the Valkyrie ships, apparently. Neither were the Thungor vessels. And they were dying out there. Jiwon, get up here. I need your eyes on this. His engineer appeared 2 minutes later, wiping grease from her hands. She took one look at the display and went pale. You can't be serious. Can we make it? Make it where? Into that nightmare? Captain, our shields are held together with bypass circuits and prayer. The Radiant Virtue has military-grade energy shielding, and it's failing. But they're energy shields. designed to stop weapons, energy weapons. Daeon pointed at the debris field. That's physical matter. Rocks, ice, metal. What's tearing them apart is gravitational force and debris impacts. Ji-won stared at the screen. Her engineer's mind was working. Our shields are weaker, but they're designed differently. Physical barriers, not energy fields. We use them to push through asteroid fields. Exactly. But the gravitational readings, can we use the debris? The big pieces? Use their gravity to anchor ourselves, move from one to another? Minho's eyes widened. Like hopscotch. Using the debris as stepping stones. You're both insane, Haijin said. But she didn't disagree. Ji-won ran numbers on her tablet. Her fingers moved fast, calculating trajectories and force equations. Finally, she looked up. Maybe, if I reroute everything to the thrusters. And I mean everything. Life support stays, but we lose artificial gravity, heating, and all non-essential systems. Do it. Captain, our computer can't plot a course through that. The variables are changing too fast. Daehyun looked at Minho. Can you do it manually? The young navigator swallowed hard. I can try. That's all I'm asking. Haijin, manual thruster controls. The computer might lag in that interference. She moved to a secondary station and pulled up physical control sticks. Manual thrusters ready. This is going to be rough. Ji-won, how long to reroute power? 10 minutes. You have 5. Move. She ran. Daehyun opened a channel to the Radiant Virtue. Only Static answered, but he spoke anyway. This is Captain Park of the Magungwa. We're coming in. Hold on. No response. Just the storm, churning and hungry. The lights dimmed as Ji-won diverted power. Gravity failed. Daehyun's stomach lurched as he floated slightly against his restraints. The temperature began to drop. He could see his breath. Ready, Ji-won called out. Minho? Course plotted. I think. Captain, I can't promise. I know. Take us in. The Magungwa turned toward the storm. The engines, old and patched and held together by spare parts, roared to life. They dove into chaos. The world became violence. A piece of debris the size of a bus shot past the viewport, missing them by meters. Minho jerked the controls, and the ship lurched sideways. Daehyun's stomach tried to climb out through his throat. Behind them, Ji-won was strapped into a jump seat, watching her instruments with wide eyes. Left. She shouted. Big gravitational spike left. Haijin fired maneuvering thrusters manually, and they spun away from an invisible hand trying to crush them. The hull groaned. Metal screamed. But it held. There! Minho pointed at a massive chunk of what looked like a destroyed station, using its mass to slingshot, firing thrusters in 3, 2. The Magungwa swung around the debris, using its gravity to change course without burning precious fuel. For a moment they were flying sideways, and then Minho corrected, and they were diving deeper into the anomaly. The temperature had dropped to near freezing. Daehyun could barely feel his fingers. But the ship was responding. Every patch system, every jury-rigged component, everything held together by Ji-won's skill and human stubbornness, was working. They passed a Thungor vessel, dead. Its hull was cracked open, exposed to space. Daehyun looked away. I'm reading the Radiant Virtue, Haijin called out. Bearing 270, down 15 degrees. They're caught in something. Can we reach them? Minho's hands danced over the controls. There's a clear path if we time it right. Big ice chunk coming around in 30 seconds. We ride its wake, then boost hard. Do it, they waited. Daehyun counted seconds in his head. The ice chunk, easily the size of a small moon, drifted past. Its gravitational field pulled at them. Minho used it, letting them get sucked into its wake, then fired all thrusters at once. The Maganwa shot forward like a bullet, and suddenly they were through. The churning chaos fell away, and they entered a pocket of calm space. It was like stepping into the eye of a hurricane. In the center of this pocket sat something impossible. "What is that?" Hyjin whispered. "It was a station. Ancient, massive, built from some kind of dark metal that seemed to drink in light. It was geometric, all sharp angles and perfect lines that hurt to look at. And it was active. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that made no sense. Hundreds of mechanical arms extended from its core, moving with purpose. And caught in those arms, like insects in a web, were ships. The radiant virtue hung suspended, its beautiful crystal hull dimmed. Next to it was a Pelshen cargo hauler, a Korvax explorer, Ambassador Kilthur's personal yacht, its elegant lines marred by grasping mechanical clamps. All of them caught. All of them helpless. "It's a trap," Jiwan said softly. "The anomaly, the gravitational chaos. It's all designed to pull ships in." Dayan stared at the ancient station. "Designed by who?" "I don't know. But look at the ships. None of them are damaged beyond the capture. It's not destroying them. It's collecting them. For what?" Before anyone could answer, an alarm blared. Mechanical arms were extending toward the Maganwa. "Evasive," Dahan shouted. Minho yanked the controls. They dodged one arm, then another. But more kept coming, moving faster than should be possible for something so large. One clamp closed around their port thruster. The ship jerked to a halt. "We're caught." Hyjin reached for the weapons controls. "Wait!" Jaewon was staring at her tablet. "Wait, look at this. The station, it's not grabbing us as hard. The other ships, it clamped them immediately and tight. But us? It's almost gentle." Daeum looked at the tactical display. She was right. The mechanical arm holding them wasn't crushing, just restraining. "Why? I think." Jiwon scrolled through data. "I think it's analyzing us, looking at our technology level. And it's confused." "Confused?" "Captain, every other ship here is advanced. Quantum computers, AI systems, energy-based propulsion. But us, we're running on tech that's barely past chemical rockets. We have physical computers, manual controls. To this station, we probably look like we're not even worth processing." A second alarm blared. "Captain, I'm detecting movement in the other ships," Hyjin reported. "Life signs. The crews are alive. Can we communicate?" "Trying." She worked her console. Static filled the cabin. Then a voice broke through. It was Ambassador Kilthur, and he sounded terrified. "Anyone hear this? We are trapped. Our systems are being drained. The station is doing something to our ships. It's taking them apart from the inside. Please, anyone. Ambassador, this is Captain Park. We read you." Silence. "Then, the humans? You came?" "We came. What's your status?" "Our ship is dying. All advanced systems are being infiltrated by the station. It's taking control, studying our technology, dismantling it. We have maybe hours before life support fails." Jiwon was nodding, pulling up schematics. "He's right. Look at the data streams. The station is interfacing with their ships, but it can't interface with ours. We're too primitive. Too different. Can we shut it down? Maybe, but someone would have to go inside. And Captain," she showed him her tablet. "Look at these readings. The station's computer system. It's ancient, but it's physical. Actual mechanical processors. No quantum arrays, no AI cores. Just physical computing on a massive scale." Daeum understood immediately. Modern ships can't interface with it. Right. Their AI keeps trying to establish quantum handshakes that don't exist. Their systems are too advanced. But us? She smiled grimly. We might actually be able to talk to it. If someone can reach the core and access the manual controls. Manual controls? In there? This station predates every species in the galactic community. Whoever built it, they used physical interfaces. Keyboards, switches, actual buttons. The kind of thing we still use because we can't afford better. Haijin was already unbuckling. How do we get inside? Jiwan pulled up a map she'd built from scans. There's an airlock here. Old style but functional. From there, 3 main corridors lead to what I think are safety cores. Shut down all 3, and we can access the central processor. Then we input a shutdown sequence. Do you know the sequence? No, but the station should have physical documentation somewhere. They always did back then. Before digital storage. Daeon stood. The motion was sluggish in the cold air. Ai-Jen, Minho, you're with me. Jiwan, you stay here. Keep the Magungwu ready to move and guide us through comms. Captain, I should go. I'm the engineer. I need you here. If this goes wrong, you're the only one who can fly this ship out. He grabbed his environment suit from the locker. Besides, you'll be in our ears the whole time. We're just your hands. She didn't like it, but she nodded. They suited up in silence. The environment suits were old, patched in places, but rated for hard vacuum. Daehan checked his helmet seals twice. Beside him, Haijin loaded her weapons. Actual ballistic weapons, slug throwers that every other species had moved past centuries ago. Ready? Daehan asked. No, Minho said honestly. But let's do it anyway. They cycled through the airlock and crossed the gap to the ancient station. Up close, it was even more terrifying. The metal was covered in patterns that might have been writing in a language dead for millennia. The airlock was massive, built for beings much larger than humans. Ai-Jen examined the controls. They were physical, mechanical. She pressed what looked like a button. Nothing happened. She tried another combination. The airlock groaned and began to open. We're in, Daeyan reported. Good. Jiwan's voice crackled in his helmet. Now get to those cores. And be careful. We don't know what else is in there. They stepped into the ancient station. The airlock sealed behind them with a boom that echoed forever. And in the darkness, something moved. The corridor stretched into darkness. Emergency lights flickered along the walls, casting shadows that moved like living things. The air had pressure, merely, and it tasted stale even through Daeon's filters. This place had been running on automatic for a very long time. I'm reading 3 power signatures. Jiwan's voice crackled in their helmets. 1 ahead, 1 to your right, 1 below. Those should be the safety cores. Which one first? Daeon asked. Closest is ahead, about 200 meters. But Captain, I'm also reading movement. The station has automated defenses. As if on cue, something scraped metal against metal in the darkness ahead. Haijin's hand went to her weapon. What kind of defenses? Unknown. Just be ready. They moved forward in a wedge formation. Haijin at the front, Daeon in the middle, Minho covering the rear. Their helmet lights cut through the gloom, revealing walls covered in that same alien script. Occasionally, they passed windows that looked into processing chambers. Massive machinery sat silent and waiting. The scraping sound came again, closer. Contact, Haijin said quietly. It emerged from a side passage. A drone, roughly spherical, covered in manipulator arms and cutting tools. Its sensors focused on them, glowing a dull red. For a moment, nothing happened. Then it rushed forward. Haijin fired. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Her slug thrower spat metal, and the drone sparked, jerked, and collapsed. Pieces scattered across the floor. Energy weapons wouldn't have worked. Ji-won said in their ears. The station's interference field would have disrupted them. But good old bullets? Nice job. Thanks, Haijin said, reloading. How many more of these things? Unknown. Keep moving. You're almost at the first core. They found it in a chamber that might have once been a control room. The safety core was a cylinder 3 meters tall, covered in warning labels in that dead language. Lights pulsed along its surface. And next to it sat a control panel. Physical switches, actual mechanical toggles, and a screen that displayed information in symbols Daehin didn't recognize. Ji-won, we're at the first core. How do we shut it down? Looking at your camera feed now. Okay. See those 3 switches on the left? They should be the main power couplings. Flip them in sequence, top to bottom. Daehin reached for the first switch. It was stiff, resistant. He pulled harder, and it clunked into the down position. The core's lights flickered. Second switch. Third switch. The core went dark with a sound like a dying breath. Good. Ji-won sounded excited. 1 down. Next core is to your right and down 1 level. There should be a maintenance shaft nearby. They found the shaft exactly where she predicted. It was a vertical tunnel with a ladder built into the wall. The ladder was sized for beings much larger than humans. Daehin had to stretch to reach each rung. I hate this, Minho muttered below him. Could be worse, Haijin said from above. Could be 0 gravity. As if the universe heard her, the gravity failed. They began floating in the shaft. What happened? Daehin grabbed the ladder to stop his drift. The first core must have controlled local gravity, Ji-won said. Sorry, should have warned you. On the bright side, you can move faster now. They pulled themselves down or maybe up. Direction lost meaning without gravity. The shaft opened into another corridor, this one filled with pipes and conduits. Steam vented from cracks, creating a fog that their lights barely penetrated. More scraping. Multiple sources this time. Haijin? I hear it. She raised her weapon. 3, maybe 4 contacts. Surrounding us. The drones attacked from all sides. Haijin fired, taking 1 down. Daehin pulled his sidearm, a simple pistol that hadn't been cutting edge in 50 years, and shot at another. It exploded in sparks. Minho, who had never fired a weapon in combat, closed his eyes and pulled the trigger. His shots went wild. The 1 lucky round caught a drone's sensor array. It spun in confused circles before Haijin finished it. Clear, she said, reloading again. They found the second core in a chamber filled with coolant tanks. The temperature was far below freezing. Ice crystals formed on their suits. Minho's breathing was ragged in Daehin's helmet speakers. You okay, kid? Just cold. And scared. But okay. The second core's controls were different. Instead of switches, there was a valve. A massive pressure valve that had to be cranked manually. It sealed the pressure, Ji-won explained. You'll have to release it slowly or the whole system could rupture. Minho, that's going to take strength and time. Can you do it? I can try. Minho grabbed the valve wheel with both hands and pulled. It didn't budge. He pulled harder. His face went red inside his helmet. Slowly, impossibly slowly, the wheel began to turn. That's it, Ji-won encouraged. Keep going. You need to make 10 full rotations. Minho turned the wheel. 1 rotation. His arms were shaking. 2 rotations. Sweat ran down his face. 3 rotations. Contacts! Haijin shouted. More drones incoming. She positioned herself between Minho and the corridor, firing in controlled bursts. Drones fell, but more came. They were learning, adapting, attacking from different angles. Daehin joined her, firing his pistol until it clicked to empty. He reloaded, fingers clumsy in the cold, and fired again. Minho kept turning. 4 rotations. 5. His breathing was painful to hear. 6. 7. A drone got past Haijin. It rushed at Minho, cutting tools extended. Daeon threw himself in its path and smashed it with his rifle butt. The impact jolted his arms, but the drone fell. 8 rotations. 9. Almost there! Ji-won shouted. 10. The valve clicked into place. The core's lights died. Pressure vented with a hiss that became a roar. The temperature spiked as coolant flooded away. Done, Minho gasped, collapsing against a wall. 2 cores down, Daehyun said. 1 to go. The last one is the hardest, Ji-won warned. It's in the central hub. You'll have to cross the main processing floor, and Captain, that's where most of the station's activity is focused. It's where the station is taking apart the other ship systems. Any good news? Once you shut down the 3rd core, you'll have access to the central processor. That should be in the same chamber. I've been analyzing the station's code. I think I can figure out the shutdown sequence, but you'll need to input it manually. There should be a keyboard or similar interface. A keyboard. To shut down a station the size of a city. Welcome to old tech, Captain. They made their way to the processing floor. It was enormous, a cavern filled with machinery that moved and sorted and analyzed. Streams of data flowed across massive screens. And in the center, the 3rd safety core pulsed with light. But between them and the core was a gap. A 20-meter gap where the floor had retracted, revealing grinding machinery below. And the gravity here was fluctuating, pulling in random directions. I can't map this, Jaewon said. The gravitational fields are changing too fast. You'll have to time a jump. Daeon looked at Haijin, then at Minho. I'll go. You 2 cover me. Captain, Minho started. That's an order. Daehyun watched the gravity fields, feeling them tug at his body. They pulsed in a pattern. Not regular, but close. He counted, waited, and when the pull was weakest, he jumped. For a moment, he floated weightless. Then gravity seized him and tried to pull him down. He stretched, reaching for the far edge. His fingers caught metal. He pulled himself up and over, rolling onto solid ground. The 3rd core's controls were a puzzle. 3 separate panels, each requiring a specific sequence. Ji-won talked him through it, her voice steady while his hands shook. Finally, the last panel clicked into place. The core went dark. And behind it, a panel slid open, revealing something that looked almost familiar. A keyboard. Physical keys arranged in a pattern similar to human designs. And above it, a screen displaying a prompt in symbols that slowly shifted to something readable. The station was translating itself. It's asking for input, Daehyun said. I'm sending you the sequence now. It should appear on your helmet display. Numbers and symbols appeared before Daehyun's eyes. He began typing, his fingers clumsy in the suit gloves. The keyboard was massive, built for larger hands, but it worked. Alarms blared. The station knew what he was doing. More drones poured onto the processing floor. Dozens of them. Haijin, Daehyun shouted. I see them. Minho, get ready to jump that gap. They fought. Ballistic weapons roared. Drones fell in sparking heaps. But more kept coming. Daehyun kept typing. The sequence was long, complex. One wrong character, and it would fail. Sweat ran into his eyes. Behind him, Haijin's weapon clicked empty. She drew her sidearm. Last character. He hit enter. The station screamed. Not with sound, but with vibration that shook the entire structure. Lights flickered and died. Machinery ground to a halt. The drones collapsed mid-attack. Silence. Did it work? Minho asked. Oh, it worked, Ji-won said. But we have a new problem. The station is shutting down, including life support. You have maybe 5 minutes to get back to the ship. Run! Daehan ordered. They ran. The corridor was collapsing. Not physically, but systematically. Lights died in sequence behind them. Doors sealed. The air grew thin. Daehan's lungs burned as he ran, his suit's oxygen supply struggling to compensate for the failing atmosphere. Left at the junction. Ji-won's voice guided them. Then, straight for 50 meters. They took the corner too fast. Minho slipped, caught himself, kept running. Behind them, a bulkhead slammed shut, missing Haijin by centimeters. The station is contracting, Ji-won reported, sealing itself section by section. You need to move faster. Working on it. Daehyun gasped. They reached the airlock chamber. The door was closing. Haijin dove through first, rolling to her feet on the other side. Minho followed, barely making it. Daehyun jumped, and the door caught his ankle. Pain shot through his leg, but he pulled free and collapsed onto the airlock floor. We're in, he shouted. Cycling the outer door now, Ji-won said. Get ready to jump. The station's gravitational field is collapsing. It's going to get rough. The outer door opened. Beyond it, space was chaos again. The anomaly was destabilizing, the calm eye closing. But the Magunwa was there, holding position with all thrusters firing. The distance between the station and the ship was maybe 10 meters. In zero gravity and a failing gravitational field, it might as well have been kilometers. On 3, Daehyun said. We jumped together. Aim for the airlock. Ready? Haijin and Minho nodded. 1, 2, 3. They jumped. For a moment, Daehyun felt weightless, drifting. Then the gravitational chaos caught them. He was pulled left, then right, spinning. He couldn't see the ship. Couldn't see his crew. Panic clawed at his throat. A hand grabbed his arm. Haijin. She had caught him and Minho both, using her body as an anchor point. They were drifting toward the Magunwa slowly, so slowly. They hit the hull. Daehyun's shoulder screamed in pain, but he grabbed a handhold. Together, they pulled themselves to the airlock and tumbled inside. We're in, Minho shouted. Go, go, go! The Magunwa's engines roared. Ji-won had already plotted a course, using the same hopscotch method to navigate out of the collapsing anomaly. The ship shook and rattled, but it moved. Daehyun pulled himself to the bridge, still in his suit. Through the viewport, he could see the ancient station breaking apart. Sections separated, drifting into the anomaly's pull. The mechanical arms that had held the other ships went limp. The other vessels, he said. Already on it, Ji-won replied. The station released them when it shut down. But their systems are still fried. They can't maneuver. Can we tow them? Captain, we barely have enough power to save ourselves. Daehyun looked at the drifting ships. The Radiant Virtue, its crystal hull dark. Ambassador Kilthur's yacht, spinning slowly. The Peltion hauler with its crew of 12. All of them helpless. Reroute everything to the engines and tow cables, he said. We're not leaving them. Sir, that's an order, Ji-won. We're not leaving them. She was quiet for a moment. Then, rerouting power now. But Captain, we can only take one at a time. And we don't have much time before the anomaly collapses completely. Then we work fast. What followed was the most grueling hour of Daehyun's life. The Magunwa latched onto the Radiant Virtue first, the largest ship and the one with the most crew. Ji-won pushed the engines past their limits, and they pulled the Valkyrie flagship away from the anomaly's pull. As soon as they were clear, they released and went back for the next ship. Ambassador Kilthur's yacht. Tow, pull, release. The Peltion hauler. Its hull was damaged, leaking air. They had to be careful not to tear it apart. Tow, pull, release. a Sendri science vessel. Tow, pull, release. The last ship, a small Korvax explorer, was nearly at the anomaly's event horizon. Jaiwan warned that going after it would put them at risk. Daehan went anyway. They caught it with the tow cable just as space behind them seemed to fold in on itself. The anomaly was collapsing, the ancient station's power finally failing completely. The gravitational forces peaked, pulling at the Mugunhwa with massive strength. Full power. Daehan ordered. Everything we have. Jiwan pushed the engines. They screamed in protest. Warning lights flashed across every console. The hull groaned. Metal stressed to its limit. And slowly, impossibly slowly, they pulled free. The anomaly collapsed behind them in silence, space folding back to normal. The ancient station was gone, destroyed, or pulled into whatever dimension it had come from. All that remained was debris and the rescued ship's and the Mugunhwa, battered but intact. Its patchwork hull holding together one more time. Status report, Daehan said, his voice hoarse. Engines at 20%, Jiwan reported. Port thruster is completely dead. Shields are gone. But we're alive, and so are they. Communications crackled to life. Multiple channels, all the rescued ships trying to hail them at once. Daehan answered the radiant virtue first. This is Captain Park. Is everyone all right? A Volcari voice responded, harmonics thick with emotion. Captain Park, we owe you our lives. All of us. How did you? Later, Daehan said. Right now, everyone needs to check their ships for damage. We'll escort you back to Kepler-7. With what engines? Ambassador Kilthur's voice joined the channel. Captain Park, your vessel appears to be barely functional. She always does. The journey back to Kepler-7 took 3 days. The Mugunhwa led the convoy of damaged ships, limping along at minimal speed. Jiwan worked miracles keeping the engines running. Minho plotted the safest, slowest course. Haijin stood watch, just in case. When they finally arrived at the station, the docking bay fell silent. Every species stopped what they were doing to watch as the battered human freighter emerged from hyperspace, towing a string of advanced vessels behind it like prizes. The Mugunhwa docked at Bay 47, the garbage hauler bay. Daehan didn't care. The station council convened an emergency session. Daehan was summoned, along with his crew. They walked through the concourse in their stained, damaged suits. No one laughed this time. Species stepped aside, some actually bowing their heads in respect. Ambassador Kilthur was waiting at the council chambers. The large amphibian approached Daehan and did something Daehan had never seen. He lowered his head. Captain Park, I owe you an apology. I called your vessel Junkyard trash. I mocked your courage. I was wrong. Profoundly wrong. Daehan was quiet for a moment. Then he extended his hand. Apology accepted, Ambassador. They shook hands. Kilthur's grip was gentle but sincere. The council session was brief. They wanted a full report, but mostly they wanted to thank him. The Valkyrie offered to upgrade the Mugunhwa systems with their technology. The Thungur Collective offered weapons. Others offered credits, resources, favors. Daehan stood before them all and spoke. You called our ship Junkyard trash. And you know what? You were right. It is trash. Built from scraps and parts we salvaged from wherever we could find them. Held together by welds and bolts and, yes, sometimes tape. But that's what humans do. We don't have the luxury of building perfect ships. We build what works. We adapt. We survive. He gestured to his crew. Your vessels are beautiful. They're elegant. They're powerful. They represent the best your civilizations can create. And they should. You've earned that. But our ships? They represent something different. They represent necessity. stubbornness, the refusal to give up even when everything says we should. He looked at Ambassador Kilther. You said you wouldn't trust the Magongwa to reach the next station, but she brought you home. She brought everyone home. Not because she's perfect, but because she's human. And sometimes, that's exactly what you need. The council chamber was silent. Then, slowly, beings from a dozen species began to applaud. It started quietly, then grew. Some species didn't applaud in the human way, but they showed appreciation in their own manner. Harmonic humming, mandible clicking, wing fluttering. Dayan nodded and left the chamber. 2 weeks later, after repairs, the Magongwa prepared to depart. G1 had accepted some of the offered upgrades, but only the ones that didn't change the ship's fundamental nature. Better coolant lines, improved sensors, nothing that would make them dependent on technology they couldn't fix themselves. Dayan stood on the bridge, looking at the viewport. Other ships docked at the station now approached the Magongwa differently. Not with mockery, but with respect. Some crews had even started adopting human techniques, building redundancy into their systems, learning manual backup procedures. Ready, Captain? Minho asked. Ready. Where to? Daehang smiled. Home. We need to resupply. And I promised Yuan she could rebuild the port thruster properly. With what parts? Whatever we can find. Haijin laughed. So, business as usual. Business as usual. The Magongwa undocked from Bay 47. As it pulled away from the station, it didn't look any different than when it had arrived. Still patchwork. Still mismatched. Still held together by human ingenuity and determination. But everyone who watched it saw something different now. They saw a ship that had gone where others couldn't, done what others wouldn't, saved lives when saving lives seemed impossible. They saw Junkyard trash that had proven itself worthy of the stars. The Magongwa jumped to hyperspace. The engines rattled. The hull groaned. The lights flickered, and it flew.